So it is, Brett, it's a great pleasure to have you back on 360. Welcome to Coach's Night again.
Yeah, I didn't think it'd be in the North Melbourne colours, but yeah, it's good to be here.
Great to see you.
Chris, thanks for coming up the highway.
No worries, Jared. Good to be here.
I just want to show you both an image before we start. This is Damien Hardwick, 10 a.m, game day, beer and dog, sitting on the couch, just waiting for it all to unfold. Do you have a dream of this day, Chris?
Mine would probably be a red, but I don't know how the red goes.
10 a.m. in the morning. 10 a.m. in the morning, Rats. Jack Brevolt pointed out.
Has he got, has he got the Tigers top on?
Yes.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, at least he hasn't burnt it yet. That's the way you want to end, isn't it? Still loving your club and being on good terms and, you know, albeit mid-season. But, I don't know, do you look forward to that day?
I thought it was pretty close, but I've come back again. So,
oh, sorry, I should say, how was that day? How did you celebrate or commiserate?
There's a lot of mixed emotions when you step away. It's a roller coaster, and 1 minute you're looking back and reflecting on yourself, and then you're sort of thinking maybe what could have happened, and then you've sort of got to move forward a bit. Otherwise, you just sit in that place. And it's good to see Dimmer relaxing though. Just to put your feet up. And the great thing is, you heard the way he spoke about his players and the love that he had for, Jack and Dusty and Trent, and so he'll have great memories. And whether he coaches again or not, he's a triple premiership coach. He's been a star in the coaching ranks, and good on him.
So, I hope you don't mind me asking it this way. You're such a great football person, Brett, and yet the game has hurt you a couple of times pretty nastily. How do you shed that? And you're planting Japanese maples, which I thought was a beautiful story, and go, OK, I'm going to suit up and put myself there again.
It's just a situation. It wasn't planned at all. We think about Al, every week, every day, make sure he gets right and gets back. I think we're going to do a few gags at the footy club where Todd Viney was going to take a picture of me sitting on a hot water bottle and hopping out of his office with the hot water bottle and say, I'm keeping the seat warm. But I think life throws you a lot of challenges, and sometimes you need it in certain areas, and this was a thing that I was happy to do, and North Melbourne reached out and Todd said, could you do it? And so we've had 2 weeks in. Our performances have been, pretty solid against the Swans, and it was a little bit inconsistent in the game against Collingwood.
So I think we would all forgive you if you were a bit bitter with footy, but that's clearly not who you are.
Oh, there's elements, I think, sometimes, but, you can't change what happens sometimes. You can, you can't change it, but you can change how you act towards it, and that's a critical point. We're all leaders of, football clubs, but, I'm a father and my kids, and if I was still dragging my tail 6 months later, I don't think it's a good look for my kids. So things are going to happen in life, and it's how you handle it. And I had to get on the front foot and just keep trudging on and moving forward. And as you said, I love the game, so to be a part of it again. I started off part-time, and I've still got another 3,000 Japanese maples, so if you're free on a Wednesday, Scotty, can you come and help us? It's going to be wet and sloppy, but we'll put them in, eh?
I want to tell you a story about
I'm up for it.
the integrity of this man. In December, I rang him up. I said, can I come and do an interview with you? Got rid of it. St Kilda, hadn't spoken to anyone, so we went to the pub in Warrandyte, and we had lunch and a couple of pots. And I pushed play. And he spoke, and there was a little bit of business, and he told stories, and I finally got around to writing it, and I rang him up, and he said to me, do you mind if you don't publish it? Because it's not me to have a crack at people behind me. And I thought, geez, what a good man. So when he got reappointed at North Melbourne, I thought, you've had some bad things happening in your life, but you have a lot of good things in life as well, because you like helping people, Rats. That's what you do. You help people.
I think, I just would love to just touch on it while we've probably got a public audience. Look, I got sacked from a job, and it was public, and it's humiliating when you do, there's no doubt about it. But a lot of people go through some really bad things in life. And this is a job for us, and we love the game, but there's people out there that are way worse than we are. And, that's the bit for us to, you've got to pick yourself up and go again, dust yourself off and get back in the game. But there's a lot of people with hardship, and to make sure that they're all right, we've we'll get back on our feet and get another footy job or get back out there. But there's some people doing it so tough, and our thoughts go to them more than just, yep, a coach gets sacked. I think it's the way it's handled could be done differently for some. But I think there's other people out there that need
Can
it.
I run that story now? What do you reckon?
No, you can't.
Anyway, it's great to see you back in Footy
Nice to
Rats.
have you here. Chris, does the recent successes make it any easier to deal with, I imagine, the disappointments of the moment and the challenges of the time? As it's easily recounted that you'd only lost 3 in a row once in your coaching tenure, and it's happened twice this year.
Yeah, I didn't know that. And hopefully it's because I don't look back too much, and I certainly don't look back to last year and try to use that as a measuring stick for where we are at the moment. I've been a big advocate over the previous 5 or 6 years in particular, and hopefully even longer than that, of trying to be a little bit more in the moment and accepting that we are changing. And like externally, I get it that people want to sort of work out where you are compared to where you were in the previous era, or who this team is compared to the last one. Where I just think we're changing all the time, and we need to try to be in the moment. Right at the moment, we're a pretty average team, but that can turn really quickly. I guess the only part that I would draw on, like historically, is the confidence that when we do get it together, we're a really difficult team to beat, and that's still well and truly on the table for us at the moment. And I just think, you know, given the stuff we talked about, it is hard if you go into this industry, and I think playing's hard. Like, I remind myself all the time, I still think on balance playing's harder than coaching. Like, at least we get to remove, you know, the physical pain that you need to deal with. Yeah, it's a bit more emotionally draining probably as a coach. But when you're in this industry, you understand you're going to get whacked a lot. And if you can't deal with the difficult times, you'll never get to experience the exhilarating moments. And in a way, I even said to our coaches and players today something along the lines of, the best times in coaching are when you're winning every week and things are going perfectly. Almost, I think the second best time is when you've got some challenges and you've got a puzzle that you've got to work through. That is exhilarating in itself, and there's a chance it won't work for us, but the thrill of the chase will be good fun, I reckon, in the second half of the year.
How thick is that puzzle right now? Is it personnel or system, or what's the problem? You take your best players out of any team, you're not going to perform well. How's the system going?
So we can see some really, and I think the puzzle's a little bit easier when you can see the reasons. The hardest times, I think, are when you're confused. Like, I just can't look at it. Best players out there, we're just not playing well. When the reasons aren't clear, that's a real challenge. When it's a little bit more obvious, it's it might not be an easy fix, but the issues with personnel and cohesion are really obvious to us, and that will, over the next month or so, be fixed. Now, the next question probably should be, but is that going to be in time? Well, I don't know. And clearly we need to be able to separate those things that we think are going to look after themselves when players come back, but also facing the real problems, which are we're putting a team on the field that should be able to win games. It's not like it's impossible. So we've got some issues to work with. So what are those things? I think teams I love, coach, you need to be able to score in the modern game. But at the moment, when we're not scoring as well, we're just getting scored against a bit easily at the other end.
Can I ask you a question? So, how do you coach without some of your leaders out there? Do you try and coach and encourage greater leadership from maybe your second-tier players, or do you really hammer home the system? This is what the system we've got to play, or do you try and go individually and collectively with the leadership? It's time to stand up. I don't know how you approach a situation like this as a coach. Can you let us in?
Well, I think the first part is it's great opportunity for the players that normally sit a rung behind the leaders that would be out there. We've had a lot of All-Australians out of our team, and they're the ones that normally drag the others through. And so the opportunity for those kind of second-tier guys, if you like, to step up, then that's the way they should look at it. It's an opportunity, you know, and a challenge rather than some obstacle that they can't overcome. But the other thing, when you have some personnel issues, our approach to it has been and will be over the next month or so, that we don't want to tip it upside down and cause more problems. We'd prefer, when you have a bit of a lack of cohesion, trying to pull a rabbit out of the hat and really, confusing the players can lead to even more of a lack of cohesion, and that would be a disaster. I mean, I think a lot of clubs are going to go through it this year. I think there's going to be ebbs and flows, and even the weekends. I don't think about footy tipping, but I wouldn't have tipped most of the teams that won on the weekend, and you just got to sort of ride that out a little bit and not make a little problem into a really big problem.
Brett, do you have an affinity with the idea of the puzzle? That's when it's most exhilarating?
I think it is. I think, Chris is right. It's when you're up and the team's humming along, it's you enjoy those moments because you're watching the players celebrating that. But the bit about coaching is when it's not going well, and how do you get a team to perform back to that level that you want them to perform. And sometimes you only have little wins, and sometimes some of the work that you do on the track takes 1 day to transfer, 1 week to transfer, maybe 1 month, and sometimes it can take 1 year, but that's the challenge.
Resilient young group, I mean, Alistair Clarkson goes and there were some terrible hidings. You've sat in the coach's box. But they've been really competitive in the last couple of weeks. How did that morale swing? How did you find that edge that looked like it was gone previously?
I think we had a lot of travel as well. I think we played the first game at home, and then we had 5 out of 8 games away. So the schedule put, I suppose, the energy levels at probably a low, and we probably performed a little bit that way. And we've had a couple now back at home, and the energy levels have got high, and we've performed at a pretty good level. Still not acceptable. We're not winning games, but the bit against Collingwood was that. Back into the third quarter, sort of 27 points up, and before we could blink, in 5.5 minutes, it's gone to 51.
Could have been 90 by then if you didn't fight.
That's right, and that's a credit to the players that they dug in, and we came out with 35-point loss, but the bit was we got a lot of learnings out of it. Wardlaw to play under Goey. Scott had another really good game. Will Phillips is starting to develop as a player.
Looked fantastic, didn't he?
So we're starting to get little wins. Larky's form was fantastic. Kick 5. So we had some little wins on the day.
So, in the interim chair, and you've actually been the interim coach now 3 times.
Yes.
Are you fully empowered to do what you need to do? So a player like Ben Mackay and his form at the moment, are you right to address this as the coach at the moment, or is there a little bit of eggshells when you're warming the seat, as it were?
Not at the moment, no. It's I've been given full rein, really, but really we're just staying to the path what else set with the game plan and everything. We're not changing anything, keeping the seat warm. We want to keep the same process moving forward. But if players are in form or out of form, or there needs to be changes, we'll have those conversations. And Ben didn't perform to the level that he's capable of, and he probably had some plays which he would like back. But he's a way better player than that. And only the week before he played really well in Franklin for 3 quarters.
Can I ask you, what can we ask you about Alistair? How is he? And secondly, have you got any indication yet when he might return?
I've got no indication of when he will return. I've texted Al a few times, or once, and then he replied. And then before each game, he's just sending a message of support and that. And that's a hard bit when you're stuck here in this position. I want to sort of reach out and say, what are you after? What do you want to do? But that's not going to help him think about footy and that. He needs to get out and go for walks and, be with Karen and do all the things that he could take his mind away from the game and allow himself the time to just, get well.
Do you share his text messages with the playing group?
No.
Do you think your captain will play this week? And if you say no, are you going to have to tell him no?
Yeah. He thinks he's going to play,
right?
Which is a really good sign. But I guess my take on it is that he'll be available to play. Now, whether we do or not is a completely different question. What we won't do is look at the win-loss or think this game's more important than any other and make the decision based on that. Again, we're trying to be a little less kind of week to week and sort of reacting. And I think that's the trick when you're not going that well. It's just like, don't be panicked into making sort of a consecutive bad decision.
So you got Redigalere out. How's he? He's
so
done?
I think that's a decent hamstring. So a period of weeks. So we play this week and then the bye. So So hopefully that helps a bit, but I think he's going to miss a few.
So you just coach for this week coming, or are you bringing all this information thinking, right, we've got to set a date? Everyone's talking about, Geelong, let's get everything going by round 17, 18 and make a charge. Are you even thinking about that, or are you just thinking about this week coming?
No, the coaching group's always got to think about the macros. I like to think about it. So the big picture, what does it look like over the course of, a couple of months? But we've never thought in terms of, let's just hold ourselves back, and as long as we hit our straps by round 18, we'll be fine. Like, no one has that luxury. Like even Collingwood sitting on top of the ladder, they don't have that luxury. You got to, and you certainly don't want your players
thinking that
way. Yeah, I mean, I saw a little bit of. Was Ross talking about the attitude the players can take sort of pre-bye?
Yep.
I actually take a bit of a different view. I reckon the players, knowing they've got a little bit of time off, throw everything at that one before the bye. That's what I'm going with.
Well, we'll find out, won't we? Did you believe him then?
I did.
I mean, in all seriousness, like that, Pat will be kind of he's just desperate to get out there and help the team. And I thought this way a little bit with Joel over the years as well. Like sometimes you've got to save them from themselves and just remind them that there's a big picture here we've got to consider. But he's been training well, so.